Rudy Giuliani, facing the steep cost of his campaign of lies and disinformation in service of Donald Trump. If you thought Mr. Giuliani's lowest point came outside Four Seasons Total Landscaping just north of the Tacony Palmyra Bridge, or perhaps that infamous hair dye drip press conference. Oof, I forgot how bad that was. Well, anyway, if you thought those were the low points, think again. Today, the former New York City mayor filed for bankruptcy in federal court. This is less than a week after a jury ordered him to pay nearly $150 million to two former Georgia election workers for defamation. This is the latest embarrassing chapter in the spectacular fall from grace for Time Magazine's Person of the Year 2001. And it's a move that Giuliani's lawyer said should surprise no one. That settlement to Ruby Freeman and Shaye Moss is not his only financial headache, after all. According to the bankruptcy filing, Giuliani has nearly $1 million in unpaid taxes. He owes his lawyers and accountants hundreds of thousands of dollars. And he still faces a number of upcoming defamation cases, ones that have not even yet gone to trial. Let's get straight to CNN's Caitlin Poland. So, Caitlin, now that Giuliani has filed for bankruptcy, will any of these people get paid?
That is going to be remaining to be seen, because in this sort of situation, he's filing for Chapter 11. So he's going to be able to try and restructure his debts and have his assets doled out. There are liens already filed on some of his properties. The IRS had filed for a lien previously. But one of the things that is so important to look at when you're thinking about this is he's filing for bankruptcy. He's laying out all of these debts that he has, the almost $2 million for lawyers and consultants in the past, almost $1 million in taxes. That all pales in comparison to what he now owes Ruby Freeman and Shaye Moss for the defamation, for what happened last week at trial, that jury verdict. And that is the sort of thing he can go to the bankruptcy court and ask the judge, please discharge this debt. But he's already agreed in that case, as part of the final judgment, that it was malicious. And that is the sort of debt you can't get rid of through bankruptcy. And so he's going to be indebted to them, very likely after some court proceedings, for the rest of his life.
And we mentioned these other defamation lawsuits that are still pending against him. What are they? And could that mean he's going to actually owe even more money?
It very well could. And Jake, you won't be surprised. There are 3 of them related to other statements he was making after the 2020 election when he was working on behalf of Donald Trump. So he clearly had that defamation case that he lost with Ruby Freeman and Shaye Moss, the 2 Georgia election workers. But there's also someone who worked for one of the voting machine companies that's been suing him. There are the 2 voting machine companies that have major lawsuits that are progressing steadily in court. Dominion and Smartmatic, those are ongoing, could result in additional major findings against Giuliani if they go the same way as the Freeman and Moss case. And then on top of that, there are other lawsuits. Some of them are just your grab bag lawsuits. A grocery store employee suing him for an altercation that they had where the grocery store employee was arrested, a former employee suing him for harassment, and then Hunter Biden, you mentioned. That is a lawsuit that is in a very early stage. We have no idea if Giuliani's going to end up owing Hunter Biden money, but it is a lawsuit out there, and so he does have to disclose it in his bankruptcy now in case it gets to the point where he owes more money later.
We don't know if he's going to end up paying Hunter Biden money. We know that he tells a lot of lies and defames a lot of people, and we've seen courts come to that conclusion. Caitlin Polans, thanks so much. Let's bring in Ken Friedman. He served as a spokesman for Rudy Giuliani's 1993 mayoral campaign. Also with us is Jared Elias, a bankruptcy professor at Harvard Law School. Jared, help me understand this, because I am not an expert on bankruptcy, and I'm guessing most of our viewers are not. Put this into context. How big of a deal is it for somebody, especially somebody of Rudy Giuliani's stature, who was once worth a lot of money as the founding partner of Bracewell, Giuliani, et cetera, to file bankruptcy? How big a deal is that?
Well, it's unusual. It's not unheard of, but it's unusual for someone who is as rich as he once was to end up needing bankruptcy protection, especially to need bankruptcy protection for this type of litigation.
And Ken, as somebody who used to work for and admire Rudy Giuliani, what goes through your mind as you watch this man for whom you used to work now having to file bankruptcy because he can't stop lying?
Well, my first thought is his lawyer is correct. It doesn't come as a surprise. after the judge ruled that he has to begin paying Moss and Freeman immediately, no coincidence that he filed for bankruptcy the next day. Caitlin is right. The damages, and the bankruptcy professor certainly can speak to this, but damage awards for intentional misconduct are not entitled to a bankruptcy protection, or reduced or discharged. He owes Uncle Sam first $1 million or more dollars, the federal government and the state government, for unpaid taxes. After that, the secured creditors will be compensated from the remaining assets that's determined that Rudy has. He says he has between $1 and $10 million in assets.
And Jared, part of the final judgment in the 2020 election defamation case against Giuliani included his acknowledgement that he defamed Ruby Moss and Shea Freeman, Ruby Freeman and Shea Moss, that he defamed them with malice. That obviously makes it harder for him to escape that debt. What happens? Does the government just come and start taking money from his bank account after the $1 million that he owes in taxes has already been settled? I mean, he obviously, we just saw pictures of him. He's wearing expensive suits, expensive ties. He's riding in a limo. I mean, this is not a man, outside wearing a barrel.
No, in the bankruptcy petition, he says he has between $1 and $10 million worth of assets. So he's not indigent. And as you mentioned, there are other signs that he, in fact, might have resources. So what's going to happen here is that the judge will hold a hearing to confirm that this debt can't be discharged, which means that you can't ask the bankruptcy judge to release you from the amount of money that he owes for the election defamation claims, as well as some of the others. And if that's true, which it most likely is, then at some point he will leave bankruptcy, and he'll have to start paying some amount of money, if he has any, to all of the people who are suing him. But he can't use the bankruptcy process to get out of this debt.
And
That's the key.
Ken, do you think Giuliani would have gone down this path of election lies, crazy conspiracy theories, seemingly mindless decisions to keep repeating these lies even after he's been found guilty and liable, if it weren't for Donald Trump? And what is this hold that Donald Trump has over him, do you think?
Probably not, to answer your question. And, they're attached to the hip now.
Except Trump won't pay his bills.
Trump is worried.
Trump won't pay his legal bills, right?
Right. But Trump he held a fundraiser, didn't raise much money, as you know, and because he's worried that Rudy will flip on him. All right. But he's not going to pay a $148 million judgment.